Good evening. Tonight, it is day 2 of the Satellite 2025 conference in Washington, D.C., and what a day it's been. I'm all over it and have some videos to share with you, including some from an annual pitch event they do. There's a lot of news to cover in our community today. We're going to touch on really briefly, and we're also going to discuss some major events coming up in late September with our guest, Marcelo Boldt, from the Space Generation Advisory Council. From the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, reporting live from Mordor on the Potomac, Washington, D.C., this is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is the Unknown Quantity. Okay, so as usual, I always start with a little pitch at the beginning. Why are we all here? What is the Center for Space Commerce and Finance? Well, we're an organization, a nonprofit from based out of Florida, and we champion and strengthen emerging space startups, space scalable SMBs, and space adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy across the funding spectrum. Our programs fortify business plans and investor readiness for founding teams at various levels of development. And one of our latest initiatives we always talk about is our monthly space microgrants, where we award $1,000 to an aspiring startup, no strings attached. The link is spacemicrofund.com, and if you want to apply, the form is right there on the page and very easy to submit. Only takes a couple minutes. We encourage our listeners and fans also to help support microgrants. And near the bottom of that page is a link button to our support page where you get the option of a one-time gift or a monthly subscription. Think of it, $50 to $100 a month for 6 months or more helps a lot of new firms get out of the garage. Now, joining me is one of my podcast producers, an entrepreneur himself, and one of my oldest space friends, Michael Lane from Liftport. Michael, come on in, man.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, I am doing all right. This is one of probably our more technically challenged shows that we've done since we started this. I am phoning it in from a Holiday Inn in Washington, D.C., at the mercy of their Wi-Fi connection. And I know you've had some glitches, and I'm glad to see we're able to do this still, and hopefully provide some good content for everybody.
Yeah. You said on your intro, Mordor on the Potomac. I have never heard Washington, D.C. referred to as that, but I really like that title, Mordor on the Potomac. I might steal that phrase. Where are you? What is your event? What are we talking about here?
Well, I go to some weird. I go to some weird places, and so I read a lot of interesting stuff. I saw a guy come up with something like that. I thought, that's perfect. So yeah, I don't mind if it catches on. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
We have some news. I know you sent me a whole bunch.
You're at the SAT Show 2025.
Are out there really? Not hearing you, Michael. See, this is the issue we're going to get. So that's okay.
Okay.
I saw one of the events that showed up. Just, you all right?
Yeah. And now I can't hear you.
Okay, let me start with a news item. You guys can hear me all. One of the interesting things. Okay. You're in and out, Michael. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Okay. One of the interesting news items of the day, and these are people I actually know, so it's interesting to me. SES just announced that they invested in Link Global to break into the direct-to-device market. That's one of these things that are This is one of the news items that you get at the satellite conference or things like that. And I happen to know these people. I know Candace Johnson, the founder of SES, reasonably well, and she's a lovely individual and really works hard. And the SES is a huge, huge company over in Europe. Leighton Global is run by our buddy Charles Miller, who's a I won't say he's a fixture, but he is a good friend to space, and he's been around space advocacy community for many, many years. And so he used to run the portal for a while out at NASA Ames, and he developed this company a long time ago, and now it's they're really seeing return on all the work that they've done, bringing great news item today. Hope it works out for them. There was another item here. I don't know. If,
hold on just one sec about about Charles Miller. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Now.
The other thing about Link and specifically Charles Miller, they were the very first direct to device company. I read Charles's prospectus back in 2000, I'm going to say 17 or 18, and they were the first ones to market. So while Starlink and T-Mobile get some visibility, while AT&T and iPhone get some visibility, it was Link that pioneered this stuff. And it's pretty important to kind of note that they were the beginnings of all this. The other thing that I might point out is that Charles has been, as you said, a fixture in this industry for 30 years. I first met Charles back, it was probably 2005 or 2006 with the he ran the March Storm event that always is such a big hit. March Storm is seriously impactful in this industry, and
they just did one.
They just concluded a couple days ago. It's always great, right? So here's Charles, been in this thing for a long time and really had some success out of it. He was on the first Trump transition team for NASA. He and Greg Autry had to work really hard to push for the commercialization of space. So it's really kind of great to see a true pioneer coming into his own and really kind of succeeding. It's just nice to see. It's just nice to see. So
yeah.
What do you got?
Right, Morty's with us. He's a regular watcher of the show. Welcome back, Morty.
Yeah.
He says he's going to the SAT show tomorrow, and so about any recommendations there are on the floor. Here's what's interesting about the SAT show. It's not. Keep in mind, the SAT show is not a space conference as you and I usually perceive of it. It is not. It is a huge conference. It's all about people from a specific, really capital intensive industry, and there's a lot of competition in mostly hardware and software solutions, and they're all trying to out there and hustle and do business with each other and sell their stuff. That's what they are focused on. Compared to a space advocacy conference like ISDC, or New World, where everybody kind of knows everybody, and we spend as much time catching up on things and sharing ideas as we do attending conference tracks. This is all like real serious stuff, and there's a lot of military guys there, and there's and all the big players are there, like Boeing and L3 Harris and people like that, and oh God, who was it? Oh, Hughes. God, who were they trying to fool? But because you see those people too. I mean, I always get a lot of running commentary because my other, my boss at Evialto is Walt Anderson, and he has a lot of things. say about a lot of this stuff, and you try to figure out, okay, and so because everybody's either looking to sell you their components, most of which are too heavy for a 18-kilometer high airship, or they just don't have the capacity to do what we want them to do. But every once in a while I find some interesting things. It's hard, Morty, for me to make recommendations because I really don't know what interests you and what you're looking for. But there's a lot of different types of companies, and I'll tell you one thing: this year there is a lot more software going on. There's a lot more software platforms. Everyone's going, stack this and stack that, and AI is really kicking in. Everybody has their AI driven thing now and pathway that they want to pitch to you, and so I'll be doing a little more, actually looking around the show more tomorrow. Today, it was more for me like I went down and I got some man in the street interviews with some people, and I watched the annual pitch event that they do, and they had some really good companies coming up, and they pitch a bunch of judges, including some people I know, like Mike Mealing and Mark Boggett from Seraphim. And they always have some interesting things. There was this, in fact, the woman who hosts this, I didn't get to really introduce myself to her. She says something interesting, and you said mortar on the Potomac. I want to steal that. Well, I'm going to steal something too from her, because she said a very interesting thing. She said a very interesting thing. She said that to the audience out there who's probably never seen one of these, only listen to what the people pitching tell you, but listen to the questions that the judges ask, because they're seeing the big picture and they're looking for specific things that they can kind of hone in on to see whether this whole thing makes sense or not. And sometimes you might hear a question from them and you might think to yourself, why did they ask that question? And so you have to really listen to what they're talking, kind of infer what they're driving at in reaching a specific place to either help or even undermine the person presenting. I see you have my good friend Michael Mealing queued up there. If you want to play that, that's fine.
I'm going to play that. Yep.
Okay. Hi there. I'm here with Mike Mealing, a good friend of ours, a good friend of the center. He's with Starbridge Capital, and let us know what you guys are doing here this week and what you hope to gain, what your takeaways are this week.
As usual, looking for startup companies, looking for investors, trying to explain to people why a large number of things that are going on in the space sector are probably uninvestable. As always, we are very much concerned about who the customer is. As in any tech sector, the investability of something determines what is determined by whether or not there's a customer. Not a technical widget that's fun to play with, not something that's entertaining, or something that NASA might lie to you and say they want, but Congress isn't willing to fund. Find out who your customer is before you turn a wrench. That's what I'm here looking for. Is people that have turned wrenches after they talk to you.
Yeah. And of course, you need the 2% argument, right?
Yes. And so it's space is interesting. It's growing, but it still has the same challenges that any technical sector has.
All right. Thank you so much. Nice seeing you.
You want to add any commentary to that?
Yes, yeah, I do. I asked him about the 2% rule, and he agreed with me entirely, because we did have one guy presenting up there, and he was showing us his business model, and we said, well, there's this huge market our system can address, and all we need to do is capture 2% of it, and we'll make billions.
Right.
He was doing okay until he got there. And then he lost me completely. So I'll try to find that guy tomorrow and to introduce him to us.
Yeah. So, are you having fun at the SAT show? Is it useful?
It's okay. But like today, I was doing a lot of work, filming people, and I was taking some meetings today, and had a lunch meeting with another old friend of ours, Shubber Lee, and he's going to be a guest on the show sooner than later. I've already hooked him up with Sean, and so that's going to be a fun show, because we're gonna revive and revamp the Space Cynics.
Nice. Nice.
despite the fact that we're a $620 billion industry, there's still a lot of silliness and insanity
Right.
and boosterism that pervades this whole thing. And so it's time to start cramming that down now and
Yeah.
taking a second look after all these years. And so
Nice.
that's going to be a fun one. Another thing, let's see what else in the news do I care about, or do you care about, Michael? We have. I saw you send me this thing from Petapixel. I don't know if you guys have that. It was the image from the Intuitive Machines Athena lander on the moon with the Earth in the background. I don't know how they got this picture. It's a crash machine on the moon with Earth in the background is what it looks like. And so
that's exactly it. I mean, hats off to Firefly, and they made a terrific landing. But the image that sticks in my mind, whether for good or for worse, or good for better or for worse, is this lander literally falling over on its side with the Earth in the shot. I've actually taken this image. This is my background image for my computer right now.
Oh,
I change my image pretty frequently.
That's great.
This is the current version of my background, because it's the epitome of how challenging this stuff is. Last week, we had Joe Luttrell with his CUBE program going, and he said something that was really good. He's like, people always say that space is hard, but most people don't understand how hard it is. And this, 260,000 miles away, 260,000 miles away, everything worked fine 99.997% of the distance, and the last few meters something goes wrong and you are on your side looking back home. I think it's amazing.
Well,
I'm going to post this link, and the high res version is here.
Yeah.
So this is the full version. This is a much bigger image, but it doesn't work very well on your background.
Right.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing, Mike. Well, I actually met up with Joe Luttrell today for a few minutes, and we talked about that. And he's talking about his own problems. He's got a very small casing.
You did great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did great. Well, he's got this, it's one of those small casings of his. He wants to stuff some stuff in it, and he's going around talking to people to see if they have anything that will fit his casing, and nobody did so far. And so he's not happy about that. But we talked about the crash lander, and the concern of people he's talked to is that it may be that thing is tall and skinny, and because it's tall and skinny instead of squat and fat, the center of gravity, the center of gravity may change too much between Earth gravity and lunar gravity. It may raise it up and high enough so the thing becomes unbalanced once it settles on the surface. And so that's one possibility. The other possibility is the thing it was landed on, it looked like it has slope to it. It had kind of a hillside type slope to it. That could have added to the problem as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And so with a higher center of gravity and being on a slope a little bit, boop, we don't know what's going on. Absolutely.
So I've heard both of those, and then the third one I heard was fuel. So it's got a center of mass when it's fully full, and a different center of mass I had that backwards. Center of mass when it's completely full, and then when it's empty or near empty, the center of mass raises. And so any one of those three or all three of those could be parts of the problem. So it's tricky. It's tricky. I mean, we keep saying space is hard, but I don't think people understand how hard. So how was Luttrell at the show? Anything going on there?
Oh, well, I just met him over at the lunch area. I had some time between the first and second sessions of the pitch event, and so he pinged me, from the lunch area over on the other
Right.
side of the building. I went racing over there. We sat down and we chatted for about 20 minutes. And he's busy, and so was I today. So and no, as far as I know, Morty, they do not know definitively yet what
No.
the actual reasoning is for all this. They're going to sift through what little data they got and try to figure it out, of course. Yeah, but it's a shame to go 99% of the way there and you can't make it that last 100 feet. It's that's going to be frustrating, but I know they're going to try again, and maybe the third time will be the charm. We got to move forward. We're going to have our guest here very soon. But I wanted to cover one more thing. There's a bunch of items in the news today, and it has been the last couple of days, and we don't have time to cover all of it. But we would be remiss if we didn't discuss what was going on at NASA right now.
Okay.
You sent me a link about they're laying off people and they're packing up stuff, and it's kind of unclear about what's going on there. I mean, the Doge chainsaw is kind of going everywhere. I expect this will wind down and things will get back into a state of balance, sooner than later. But I hope that's not wishful thinking on my part. I hope it because NASA is important. I saw that thing you sent me. Alex McDonald was another friend of our program for many years, and he wrote a great op-ed for Space News today about
I've got that one. I'll pull that one up just after this.
Yep. But they're laying off staff, and there's riffing going on everywhere, and so there's a lot of concern and not panic, but at least subtle fear in the atmosphere. They closed 3 offices. They closed the Office of Technology Policy and Strategy, the Office of the Chief Scientist, and the DEI branch, which was expected. That was an executive order right from the beginning. Yep. That's okay. That's well, to be fair, that's 23 in this office out of a workforce of how many thousands at NASA. I mean, it still does create a little concern in the program. We'll see where it goes, because originally when they announced Doge, a lot of people in NASA were saying, okay, we're the tightest ship in the government, bring it on. And now, okay, it's happening.
Well,
so you can't have it both ways. You can't fear the future and defy the future at the same time.
At one level, they can make the claim that they're the tightest ship in government because it only has been 23 people cut off. But this one, the OSTP and the chief scientist, those are really big deals. This one, this one is partnerships and alliances with other nations, as well as our own developmental core. And the chief scientist is the guy who's in charge of asking what's next and then building towards that. So those two, you can say what you want about the politics of DEI. I think a lot of us have opinions on that, but it's hard to argue that these are good things to cut. I can't back that. I can't support that. So I'm definitely worried.
Well, it's like I like to say in this program, those two items sound vaguely important.
Yes, they sound vaguely important. Yeah.
So we're going to have to look very carefully going forward at what's going to happen. Okay, at this point, I want to get to our final segment and introduce our guest today.
Just take 1 second and talk about this.
I have the opportunity to do some major work with.
Okay, just 1 second longer about this other article. What
am I talking about?
This is Dr. Alex McDonald. He's been a guest on one of my other shows. He is the chief economist, the now retired chief economist at NASA. Like, his job is to figure out how NASA generates value for the country. His book, by the way, is fascinating. He argues that the space race actually started during colonial America, specifically the development of private telescopes as some of the first efforts to build community and technology. So fascinating stuff, definitely worth reading. And I'll cut that off now and let's bring on our guests. Sorry, I didn't want to take a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep, you're going in and out, Michael. I can't
Okay.
quite hear you. But I wanted to say something. Alex McDonald. Anyway, I wanted to say Alex McDonald is a great guy. We know him for a long time. When during the glory days, we got a bunch of NASA grants, and we're awarding lots and lots of money. Alex was running at the time the space portal at NASA Ames. And he reported directly to Pete Worden. So he was running the portal, and he did a really great job of that. So it was great to see him move up in the world, in the company, and he did a great job. And it's a shame he's retired, but I loved his message today. So that was great.
Didn't he have that role before Bruce Pittman? And that's what kind of jump started NASA Ames, jumpstarted the commercial partnerships.
Now, with all the stuff coming in and out, sometimes we talk over each other because of the delay.
All right, let's bring in our guest. All right, let's bring in Marcelo Boldt.
Okay, absolutely. Speaking of space advocacy, there's a group out there you may not have heard of called the Space Generation Advisory Council. They are huge. They are worldwide, and they're a coalition of a lot of both students of space engineering and space business and young professionals that have a gathering every year, and actually multiple places. They had a small gathering here just before the satellite conference. It's called SGX. Space Generation Advisory Council has been around for a long time, and our guest is going to talk about that and how it came about and how he got involved in this. And we're going to talk about especially the business side of it. Our guest tonight is Marcelo Boldt. He is the co-lead of SGAC's Commercial Space Project Group, a co-founder of Orion Outreach, which is a STEAM education NGO in Costa Rica, dedicated to inspiring the next generation of space professionals. He's a structural engineer at Polaris Space Planes, GmbH. He specializes in reusable space vehicles, defense tech, advanced manufacturing, with expertise in hypersonics and structural design. And he's also a technical due diligence advisor and entrepreneur in residence at Mandala Space Ventures, which is a space venture capital fund located in Los Angeles, California. So on that, Marcelo, it's 1:30 in the morning where you are. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Thomas. Hello, Michael. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a pleasure. How are you doing, guys?
Good. Glad to.
Yeah, with all the little glitches we have, I'm glad we can hear you and see you. And yeah, okay. I want you to just talk about your involvement at SGAC. You're a space. You're a leader of a project group, and I know they have like a mini accelerator going on in there. You have all these interesting little things happening, and I'd like you to speak to that and talk about it and your involvement and how you got involved.
Well, that's a great question. That's a great question, actually. So I come from Argentina, from South America, and as you know, the space industry over there is, let's say, it's growing, but it's in its early stages, right? So actually, I got in touch with the space industry by a coincidence because I wanted to basically be more involved in aerospace industry, and I got into research doing solid rocket motors at my former university in Buenos Aires. And I found once this organization, the Space Generation Advisory Council, which belongs to the UN, and that was roughly 10 years ago. Fast moving forward, to be honest, I couldn't spend so much time up until recently where I became more involved in it while I was part of the German Aerospace Center as a student first, and then also as a professional, let's say. And I've been very interested in what is the commercialization of space. Basically, I've been part of, or let's say I've been leading projects, and I've been part of projects that are working on that front from the European side. So I've seen a Space Generation Advisory Council as a great place to start those discussions, and also a great place to get to know people, like-minded people, and basically start working on this type of initiatives. And roughly 2 years ago, I became the co-lead of the Commercial Space Project Group. So this project group, we have now something like 250 members. It's growing quite fast. And we are all about the commercialization of space. So we are tackling, let's say, not only in research. For example, we are very actively involved with entrepreneurship research, from space resources to, let's say, to satellite connectivity. We also have a paper coming up with reaction dynamics, a hybrid launch startup from Canada. But then we are also doing a lot of things in the realm of promoting and basically advocating for entrepreneurship and for space professionals. So we have a space podcast program coming up. It's already been released. We have a Spotify channel if you want to follow us. Then we also have the pre-accelerator program, which actually, let's say, was born out of a necessity. This necessity that I'm talking about is because when I was basically starting my career in the industry, I also did a space startup for a brief period of time. And when talking to colleagues, when talking with friends, most of them told me, yeah, we have this, there are a lot of incubators, not only in the US, but also in Europe. But there is not so much support when you are in that space in between. And the space in between is between being an incubated idea and going into a pre-accelerator, to accelerator program. Mm-hmm. And actually those opportunities are very much scarce in emerging countries. So South America, Africa, Asia Pacific, they are in need for such solutions or for such, let's say, initiatives. So that's why I co-created with a group of colleagues this pre-accelerator program that we already released a few webinars just to, let's say, increase the awareness, bring people on board, using discussions on, for example, how to do a minimum viable product, how to do market validation, how to conduct research, and so on. And now we are deploying it. In July, we are deploying the first batch of this program. It's going to be a 5-week, let's say, bootcamp, where we will admit a cohort of roughly 10 members. And what we are going to do is basically navigate them not only through the entrepreneurship 101 things. That means, for example, how to do a business model canvas and stuff like that. But also, we want to be very focused and very specific in terms of, okay, how do you qualify a space component? How do you? I'm hearing a background noise. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Is that group related? So I was on a call the other day with Nigel, and you were there. Was that group part of that reaching to other nations, other cultures?
Yeah, that's right. That was the same webinar. Actually, thank you for attending to it. It was I think it was a great webinar. I enjoyed
it. Share for a moment about the business model canvas, because that's a relatively new tool. It's maybe 5, 6, 8 years old, and it's beginning to kind of supplant the tried and kind of overused business plan idea, right? So talk a little bit about what you're trying to do with that tool and what it is.
So the business model canvas, the idea behind that basically one paper, or let's say one page thing, is you want to lay out and you want to show the most important, let's say, the most important variables or the most important facts that would actually define your business model. So business model canvas, the interesting thing that provides is basically, okay, it says what is your cost structure, who are your customers, who are let's say your communication channels. So it basically lays out in a very lean way, because after all, this initiative of the business model canvas comes from the lean startup, let's say, movement. And as you are showing on the background. So the idea of this business model canvas is that you can basically lay out the most important variables of your business model, of your entrepreneur, or let's say a startup idea. So basically, as you can see, you can basically showcase what are the key activities, who are the key customers, what are the communication channels, what is the cost structure, your revenue streams, or your revenue model. So it's a very nice and very lean way of showing those things that not so long ago were showcased using a proper business model. A document that is something between, let's say, 30 to 100 pages long. And
Right.
in this case, you can have it in one page, and then you can just test it, right? And you test it with hypotheses. So you basically say, okay, let's say my beachhead market is going to be this beachhead market is going to have these TAM, SAM, and so on. And then you are actually testing that. How do you test it? Well, talking to people, creating your prototypes, basically trying out those prototypes with your prospective customers, doing pilot projects. So all of that is a very dynamic, very flexible, and very agile way of making sure that your business model is a sustainable one.
And how are you using that as part of the pre-accelerator? And what do you hope to get out of kind of pushing that to overseas, outside America, and to other borders?
Well, the idea is, I'm a strong believer that space industry is a great equalizer in this sense, because you have so many things to do, and the space is so vast in this sense, that I think is a great opportunity, especially in these times that we are currently living on, that we provide these tools to almost everybody, or everybody we can, right? And emerging countries are very a very interesting study case in this sense, because there are some really good, let's say, really good and really resilient companies that are being built in those regions. So if you go, for example, to South America, you will find a lot of innovation on Earth observation, especially in Argentina and in Brazil, because they desperately need the agriculture. So you will go, and let's say a normal farmer, I'm talking a normal farmer, someone who has like a few square kilometers to their own, let's say, ownership, they actually invest actively in this type of tools. And when you have this type of people actually, or these industries actively using space, and they use it in a very conscious way. They don't use it just to spend money. They use it because they really want to get something out of it. And those type of business models benefit tremendously by the space industry. And if you also go into, for example, you can go to Australia, or you can go also to Africa, and they use it for, you have, I think it's Fleet, the name of the company, and they are doing a lot of mining observation, which is fantastic. So the idea behind the pre-accelerator is basically to support this type of entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs coming from emerging countries, because they have a resilient mindset. And this is the type of mindset that when you pair it with sustainability, then it becomes something that grows, exponentially and also organically.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. I just re-looked at your background. I posted your LinkedIn connections up there. A lot of folks at Space Gen Advisory Council are involved with International Space University. It's funny how even though Space Gen got started out of SEDS and the ISU community, it's actually grown beyond that because lots of other students have heard about these programs independently of ISU. I went to ISU in 2008 and again a second program in 2011 or 10 or something like that. But that kind of globalist vision, this globalist perspective, it's pervasive in the space community. Like we all kind of believe in a big world, a big shared world. So it's pretty neat. One of the folks on the call, Morty, is asking a little bit more about the business model canvas. How would you describe this? Is it a visual business plan or a method of forming a business plan? I'm going to answer and say it's basically a one-page changeable business plan, right? Circumstance will change it. But how would you describe it?
Well, that's an interesting question. I would describe it as both. And the reason why I describe it as both is because in the past I used it as in both ways. So I used it, or let's say I created my first business model canvas because I wanted to clearly see what were the let's say the fundamental pillars behind the business idea I had at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first time where I was like, actually my first idea was to do water management solutions using Earth observation for vineyards in South America. You know, the wine industry is quite huge over there.
Yep.
So I had that type of idea, and I wanted to clearly understand and clearly lay out all the facts behind that business model. But then, not so long ago, while working as an entrepreneur in residence at Mandala Space Ventures, we used that as a let's say tool to basically form a plan on what and how to test things. So I cannot talk about this more in detail because it's classified of nature. But the idea behind the business model canvas was to basically, let's say, create a plan, create a series of hypotheses, what to test and where. So I think that it gives you a room for flexibility, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah. Tom, have you used the business model canvas tool set? We don't use it in the business.
I have not.
We don't use it in the business plan competitions where we award money. So maybe.
Well, you know, we the nice thing is we had a lot of preset sets of tools that go way back to the early internet days that we use to start embracing new stuff. So we're this kind of conversation encourages us to go out and look for new things and new ways of making things happen, and so we can also stay current and help people better. We have a kind of a standardized model for how we've built one-pagers and business plans and spreadsheets for financial projections and standard kinds of things. But this kind of stuff is much more cutting edge, and I want to start looking into that more and trying to use it. And coming up, AI is going to start playing a bigger role. And so I'm already looking into that. I need an AI myself to keep up with all the stuff that's going on.
Right. Sure. Well,
we're embracing these tools. I've seen some of these things in the past, and they're just growing at an exponential rate. Yeah,
I've
That's
used the
true.
business model
ooh, hang on
canvas.
that. You guys have
several
completely frozen on my screen. It is
times. Oh, okay.
Thomas, how would you use AI to support your activities? Do you have an idea on that?
ha,
Hello.
Tom, did you hear that? Marcelo asked how you would use AI.
Exactly. Yeah. How would you use
you
AI
guys
to
were
support
doing
your
better when I
activities?
wasn't saying anything.
Okay. I'm gonna take this one, Tom. I'm beginning to use AI on my other projects pretty frequently. And just this morning, Sean, the producer in the background, used AI and created a list in about 5 minutes. Tom took a picture of all of the sponsors at the event, and rather than at the SAT show, he took a picture of all the sponsors and all the funders at the SAT show, and rather than sit and type 50 names, 70 names into the computer, Sean took that photo, uploaded it to ChatGPT, and in a matter of 5 minutes had an entire list broken down of sponsors and contributors. He corrected me, it's 77 names. 77 names. And yeah, we got it in less than 5 minutes. So I'm using AI built into kind of day one strategies at my new version of Liftport. So yeah, I think AI is going to take my project and cut $100 million off of it. I mean, I can't come up with a hard number, but some very large number of my expenses are based exclusively on staffing and brain cells and just brain power. And as far as I know, I'm the only space company that's embedding AI into day one development. There are some companies that are wrapping AI into their work. A couple days ago, Planet, another ISU company, Planet just announced a new partnership with Agentic model, Anthropic model, and they're going to take their terabytes of data of mapping the world every 24 hours, and they're applying AI to their work. So yeah, it's definitely a factor in the space sector for sure. Yeah.
I think it's a case of, let's say, cross industries. I have, let's say, we use it in the space industry, or let's say companies use it nowadays to help them create proposals, to help them create, let's say, technical roadmaps, which usually you have to correct them. Usually you have to go back and forth. It's kind of risky when you have sensitive information. You don't want to use that. So people, or let's say companies, are developing those type of resources in-house.
Right.
But it's a great source of inspiration, I would say.
Yeah,
at least to kickstart something.
We're building ours from zero, with only vetted data going into it. We're not taking anything from the internet. If it's not validated information, it's not going into our system.
Yeah, that's a sensitive approach, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's more time consuming and it's more expensive to build the initial model, but yeah, we're building a custom AI to work on our stuff.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit harder, but the tools out there are strong enough that we can pull them mostly off the shelf. We just have to assemble them. In the last few minutes, we've got about 10 minutes, and we're gonna close out with you, Marcelo, in about 5. Y'all are talking about business plan competitions, and I know that there's some high hopes for doing something in Australia. Is any of that nailed down? Anything you want to talk about for that?
I mean, there are a lot of things in the pipeline. A lot of things are being under development. Also, Thomas can tell you more about it. One of the things we want to do is this year we want to make big things. Definitely, one of those things is basically either supporting this type of initiatives where we strongly believe in, like business model competitions and so on, but then also bringing this entrepreneurial side into the IAC stage. Our group is currently doing a lot of research on this, which is I have to say we have some papers that are, I'll probably say, very very top notch, but then there is also a lot of activities coming up soon. Podcast is a big thing for us. We are creating a podcast. Of course, all of you are more than invited to it. But then the pre-accelerator is also a great initiative. And then we are basically providing support to this type of initiatives. So all in all, a lot of things are being brewed in the back, let's say.
Yeah, we have some high hopes for the IAC,
yes.
International Astronaut Conference. Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that in this particular case for the Space Generation Congress, for the Space Generation Congress, what Marcelo and I hope to do, we want to do basically an elevator pitch event where you have about 10, really raw, out of the garage startup teams. They do maybe a 2 or 3 minute pitch, and then like 10 of them. I want to get 10 of them, and then we're going to give micro grants to the top 3. And we're going to hand them out right there on site.
I love that.
That'll be fantastic.
Yeah. And you said, Marcelo, that there's about 250 people in the Space Commerce Group?
Yeah, in the Commercial Space Project Group, we have something like 250 people at the moment.
That's fantastic. We would love to hand all of them a small check. Not all of them, some of them. The most qualified.
That's a good one. I think something that we are really proud of the Commercial Space Project Group is that we have people coming from all the backgrounds. It's very interdisciplinary, and that's very, very nice.
Yeah.
Which having people only from the space industry is very helpful, but having people
I've been talking to
Amazon, coming from, let's say, ESA and so on, it's always very enriching.
Nice.
Perfect.
Tom, did you want to say something?
I just said, including all the types of people that come, especially to this thing coming up in Australia this year. I've been talking to a group of people that I've introduced Marcelo to. They're from Taiwan, and they have their own group there. They even call themselves a Space Generation Group, but they're not a chapter even of SGAC, but they have a lot of the same goals, and they're really very interesting young people. And I'm trying to encourage them to sign up specifically for the Space Generation Congress and to come to Australia and help participate in some of these things. Because this is a unique opportunity in Australia this year, because we got a lot of the investment sector in Australia and New Zealand and parts of Oceania alone. But then you also have these people that are kind of underserved areas like Taiwan or Thailand, and they're doing events. They did a major event in Singapore just last week. And to get those engaged and get those come to this huge, I think of IEC as like the Super Bowl of international space conferences, and this is a unique opportunity to get a lot more Asian participation than we've had before.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to kind of piggyback off of that. The center has given away $400,000 in its nearly 15-year history, and we're hoping to continue to give away money, as we build. We do need to make sure that we keep the coffers full. So we'd love to have folks contribute to the microgrant program. There's the QR code up in the top left-hand corner. But we do want to, if people want to do more than that, because we want to do more than that at IAC, I'd love to have everybody get in touch with Tom directly about that. All right. Well, with that, folks, we're going to go ahead and start winding down. Marcelo, thank you so much. This was a little on the glitchy side, but we really appreciate it. It's nearly 2:00 in the morning for you for this call.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
it's been a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
thank you for being awake in the middle of the night for us. We really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing.
Marcelo, thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thanks so much, and we'll definitely do this again soon when the technology is more favorable, and maybe in a different time of day, so we can have a normal sleep cycle. Marcelo Boldt, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we'll see you again real soon. Thank you.
Soon. Bye, guys.
I'm going to tune off. Thank you very much, Tom. I'm sorry we had communication troubles at the hotel.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. I'm going to do my little closing, and then we're on our way. But I just want to let you know, hopefully we'll sort out some of these glitches for next time. I'm really sorry about that. I had a bunch of videos I wanted to share, and we only got to share one of them. We'll do some more. But I'll be back Thursday night. We're doing another remote report from Satellite 2025. And we're going to also have a very lively discussion with our guest, Mason Robbins from Star Helix Limited, continuing our ongoing discussion of the future of space exploration and literally what we call the containerization of space. Since that our other guest was on about a week ago or so, we've had some massive conversations about the container ship idea, and that's turning into something interesting. And we're going to have some more discussion privately about that probably this coming Sunday, and then we're going to be talking about that a lot more on next week's show. So from the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, I'm Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies.